I cannot overstate how much I like the Atelier games. Ever since I finished Logi on the PS3, I knew this series was everything I wanted, with its focus on crafting and its comfy pacing. Thanks to the convenience of the Nintendo Switch, I finally got my hands on the Arland trilogy, and was pleasantly received by Atelier Rorona DX, an amazing game that felt right in line with the Dusk and Mysterious sagas that I've already grown to love. However, moving on to Atelier Totori DX felt like crashing into a brick wall at the bottom of a roller coaster, so I thought it would be fun to go in depth about my experience with the game. However, before I do so, I have to say that Atelier Totori has an amazing storyline, one of the best in the series, and for the most part works really well. If you just want a sequel to Rorona's world, or if you just like Atelier games in general. It is also a very popular entry in the series that most people seem perfectly fine with, so in no way am I saying you should avoid playing it. Just don't set the bar too high for it. I will first zero in on the gameplay, but what frustrates me the most is definitely the pacing and some story decisions, specifically the ending, so I will also focus on that later on. Let us begin then with Part 1, Atelier Rorona and Positive Feedback. Atelier Rorona DX, hereinafter referred to simply Atelier Rorona, is a pretty cool game. It is also marketed together with Atelier Totori and Meruru, and most people would agree you should play this one before Totori, as Totori is the sequel. And thus, this is the only game that I'm gonna use as a point of reference for how things could have been better. It would be unfair to say Totori isn't good compared to, say, the Dusk trilogy or Atelier Ryza, because those games are newer, but Rorona is older and perfectly valid for this comparison. Rorona was significantly enhanced for this remake, however. The menus, for example, feel much more complete, which sounds like a very minor thing, but sorting and filtering options are actually very useful when synthesizing. Plus, the game has a massive post-game side quest, featuring both Totori and Meruru. But rest assured, for this comparison I will only focus on the pacing and the engine requirements. In case you're not familiar with it, the story for this game is very simple. Rorona's Atelier is getting shut down by the government because no one is hiring her to do anything, so she's just taking up space. Because of this, she has to prove to the government that her workshop is useful to the citizens and overall a net positive to society. And so, throughout a period of 3 in-game years, she will be given several assignments and 90 days to complete each assignment. The game then obviously has 2 main goals. The first goal is to complete every main assignment that the government gives Rorona, and the second one is to make the Atelier more popular and well known among the citizens. In this game, the biggest and longest boss battle is that against the calendar, as it is significantly fiercer than its Persona incarnation. In-game days go by really fast. Finishing the main task for the 90-day period will usually take you only a few days, but you might not be able to finish every single optional task for the period. Worry not, as the only way to get a game over is to fail the main task, so you don't really need to fret if you miss out on some optional assignments, though the amount you clear does alter which ending you will get. This 90 days per assignment going by so fast is actually a really good thing. It usually took me about an hour to go through these 90-day lapses. If for some reason you miss out on anything, you can just load your last save and not that much progress will be lost. But what's most important is that every 90 days the story will move forward. It's not the deepest of stories, but the characters are fun and it's generally a very fun game. These 2 elements are what Atelier is really all about. The real genius behind these assignments, however, is the positive feedback that it gives to the players. Every 90 days, a somber government employee who's actually very nice on the inside will give Rorona some headpats and say she's doing a good job and is headed in the right direction. By the end of the game, you will get an ending that feels naturally fitting to what you did throughout the game. There's many character-specific endings, but the 4 main endings are the natural permutations for the 2 main goals in the game. So first you have Rorona fails to impress the government or grow closer to the citizens, the bad ending. Then you have The government approves of Rorona, but the citizens don't care for her all that much, leading to her having a fairly boring life. This is actually the first one I got because I never even noticed the popularity percentage until it was too late. Then you have Rorona fails to clear enough assignments but is popular with the citizens, so they save her workshop from being shut down, the happy ending. And then you have Rorona achieves both goals for the best ending. It's so simple, right? It's so simple. Well, let's see how Totori fucks this up. So, part 2. Atelier Totori and a lack of feedback. Totori Helmond, aka Totori. She lives in a small village with her dad and her sister. Her dad is a ghost of a man, and her sister is overprotective because she loves Totori so much and has some abandonment issues because her mom left them when they were still very small to go on an adventure that she never came back from. Totori, however, yearns for the outside world, and most of all for her mom, who she can barely even remember at this point. And so, at the beginning of Atelier Totori, you are given two main goals for the rest of the game. The first one is to find Totori's mom, who's been missing for over 10 years. No one has seen her in this entire time. And the second one is to get an adventurer's license and prove to Totori's sister that she is a strong and independent alchemist who don't need no sister. To achieve these goals, you're given a whopping 4 years, which are later extended an additional 2 years. The reason why this time limit is so bad is because the game has no short-term goals. The first 4 years of the game, you're just mindlessly carrying out generic tasks for the government so that Totori can keep her adventurer's license, but you never ever feel like you're getting any clues at all about her mother's whereabouts, so you often just feel like you're headed for a bad ending. Doesn't help that leveling your adventurer rank doesn't feel special at all, even though it is the only thing that you're actually supposed to be doing. Throughout those 4 long years, I was just constantly filled with doubt. Am I not talking to the right characters? Am I not doing the right quests? It is not until year 4, month 6, that the story of the game actually picks up. Before I get into that, I have to say that those 4 years are unforgivable to me. That the story basically doesn't progress at all for 4 entire in-game years is absurd. If I wanted to feel like I have no direction, I'm not using my time properly or doing the right things, that I should feel guilty about having fun even though I'm headed for a bad ending, I just play real life. I don't need a video game to also make me feel these things. And because every quest related to your adventurer rank is so generic, you feel like the adventurer thing is a side quest rather than something important. Ever since the first few scenes, it's very clear that Totori wants to find her mom. So that to me was the focus. I left the village wishing to find Totori's mom, and the fact that I never felt even close to finding her for 4 entire in-game years is atrocious. Anyway, let's move on to part 3. Atelier Totori is really good, actually. Once you hit that year 4, month 6, the game changes entirely. Suddenly, stuff is actually happening. I cannot fucking believe it. The plot actually moves forward and it's fucking sick. At Totori's home village, fishermen and sea traders are in trouble because a giant sea monster is blocking all sea traffic, which is hurting the economy. Totori finds out that this giant beast, the Flaustraut, sorry, I don't speak German, was actually the last beast that her mom set out to defeat. Finally, we get a fucking clue. We finally feel like we might get closer to finding her mom. All these years, I thought she might actually be dead or something. But Totori is so determined to find her, I just have to throw away that possibility and remain hopeful that she is out there somewhere, even if most characters seem to think she's gone for good. Turns out, her ghost of a father has been so lifeless all this time because he is the one who built the ship in which her mom set out to defeat the Flaustraut. All these years, he has blamed himself for her disappearance, but after much convincing, he mans up to an incredible degree and becomes kind of a badass. He's decided he will help Totori put an end to the beast that separated him from his beloved wife. This change in his character is really exciting. These exciting developments after 4 years of nothing feel like the entire game has been turned on its head and has turned into a really exciting adventure. He builds the ship and Totori sails out to defeat the Flaustrap once and for all. Totori notices that the beast has a severe wound on it and for some reason assumes that only her mom could have made that wound. This is pretty stupid, of course. She can barely even remember her mom, so it's weird to assume her fighting style or what kind of wounds she would leave on a fish. But okay, she can feel it, so whatever. Let's make some sashimi out of this thing. The fight against this dastardly fish is tough as nails, like no other before, and eventually you don't quite kill the beast, but it does leave the surface for good, so sea traffic can resume once again. More importantly, now you have a ship, so you can finally visit that suspiciously remote island at the end of the world map that you have probably been eyeing ever since you first opened up your world map. You know this is it. You know she's gotta be here. As a player, you're excited. Imagine how Totori must be feeling getting close to that place. And here, the game has an unexpected stroke of genius. At the end of the map, Totori reaches a village where only women live. She introduces herself and the village elder simply says, "There's something I have to show you."
ギゼラ・ヘルモルトの墓じゃ。
やだ、何言ってるんですか？
どことなく面影が似ておるな。娘が2人おると話しておったが。
やめてください。そんな冗談。私だって怒りますよ。
すまぬ。
やめてくださいってば。嘘ですよね。嘘なんですよね。そんな。
This is one of the best moments in the game. It's literally, I tried so hard and got so far, but in the end, it doesn't even matter. Turns out, Totori's mom did survive her fight against the fish, and she eventually reached this village. However, there's a very insidious problem plaguing this village, where only women live. This is a sacrificial village, actually, where women are left to die at the hands of a devil who lives in a nearby tower. Every so many years, he will go on a rampage until he kills a few women and then goes back to his tower. This is incredibly grim and in very bad taste, of course, so her mom decided to put an end to the demon, but the match proved to be too tough, even for her, the strongest of adventurers, and it ended in a draw, with both of them severely injured. Her mom, heavily wounded, died protecting this village of people she had only just met. The demon, on the other hand, hasn't been seen for 10 years, but villagers can feel it. It is about to wake up once again to finally come for their lives after so long. Totori then sets out to finish her mother's task. After an entire game where every character praised her mom to no end as the greatest adventurer who ever walked the land, our little Totori has to surpass her mother and finish the fight. So you go back to the mainland actually to craft a few items because boy, this fight is significantly harder than anything else you've fought in this game. This devil makes the Flaustrap look like a Magikarp, but if you craft the right items and bring the right party, you will triumph and finally put an end for good to this abomination and the horrible tradition that it set for the village. This felt, of course, really fucking good. We finished the fight and it was tough, but we made it. Then I got Melia's character ending, and so the game ends with Totori and her sister heading out to the remote village once again, so they can visit the grave together and cry for their valiant mom one last time, the most badass mom that they could have possibly asked for, even if she wasn't there to see them grow up. This is Kino. This is beautiful. Atelier has gotten me emotional before, but this game is on a whole other level. Totori, much like the player, probably spent these years in denial of her mother's death, only to finally be faced with the truth. And instead of succumbing to the sadness and the realization that she will never again meet her, she realizes it's more important to carry on and surpass her legacy than to obsess over her past. It's beautiful. And then we have part 4, Atelier Totori, pretty fucking bad. So after getting this very satisfying ending, I made the worst mistake I ever made in any Atelier game. I went online to look up what endings I missed out on, and turns out there is a true ending different from the one I got. Gee, do I really want to play those 4 years all over again just for an ending? Well, yeah, maybe in this ending we save Totori's mom somehow. If you haven't played the game, please close the video as it all goes to shit. In the true ending, after the credits finish rolling, Totori's mom just walks back into her home like nothing ever happened. But how is this possible? Well, there were many clues to it happening. According to the village elder, they don't actually have her body, as she asked to be put on her beloved's boat and set off to the sea as she was dying because she thought it would be romantic. The ship ended up on shore, and turns out she was saved by a certain bespectacled alchemist. She said, however, that it would take up to 50 years for her wounds to heal because she was that severely injured. And so, obviously, in this ending, all you have to do is find her and bring her some better medicine. Right? Really simple. Right? Wrong. The true ending, the reason why I hate it so much, it's because it has no bearing on the gameplay at all, on top of being extremely annoying to unlock. To get the true ending, you just have to make sure Totori grows extremely close to every single possible party member, you have to see every single event in the game, become rich, brew some alcohol, participate in a swimsuit contest, and defeat the demon, of course. This does not make any sense. Hell, when Totori summarizes these events in Atelier Meru, it feels like a fucking joke. She just says, "Oh yeah, I had this really long adventure and at the end of it, my mom just showed up one day thanks to Astrid." This is particularly absurd because this is the normal ending in Atelier Ayesha, where the protagonist fails to save her sister and so an older and more experienced alchemist saves her in her stead. The best ending in this game is what is considered a mediocre ending only 2 games later. If you told me that defeating the demon unlocks the true ending, now that would make sense. If he left some sort of poison in her body that fades away with his defeat, that makes enough sense. If this was a good RPG, this would be the requirement, and the demon would be an even stronger boss, just to make sure there's still a lot of challenge to getting the true ending. There is a big difference between difficulty and tedium, and this game does not get it. Getting the true ending does not feel like an accomplishment for your effort. It feels like you have paid a price with the most scarce resource that there is, your own IRL time. Why does Totori's mom heal faster just because her daughter got a lot of money, participated on a swimsuit contest, and became really good at making alcoholic beverages? It just doesn't make sense. Why would these events trigger a different ending? Another problem is that it's unlikely you will get the true ending on your first playthrough unless you use a guide, but going into New Game Plus for this is dreadful, because you still have to do those goddamn 4 dreadful years where nothing happens. You can sleep through some of it, sure, but it's definitely busy work and just not fun. By far, the most valid lore explanation that I can come up with is that this event always happens regardless of what you do. You just don't actually see it in the other endings. So going into the world was a waste of time. In reality, Totori should have just stayed at home waiting for her mom for 16 years, and bam, you get the fucking ending you wanted. Though of course, the demon would still be out there eating all those ladies, and Totori's mom would have to face him again and probably die in the process for real this time. Plus, Meru wouldn't have a teacher. But the most important part to me is that her mom coming back just doesn't make narrative sense. I fucking love a happy ending. I don't need subversion. Just give me cute girl smiling. But this is the story of a girl in denial of her mother's death, who in the end accepts that death and gets over it by finishing her work. If she just simply comes back, it somewhat detracts from the whole thing. As if saying, yeah, if you cry over dead people long enough, maybe they'll come back someday. It doesn't make any fucking sense. Ugh! Part 5, in the end. Atelier Totori is an extremely popular entry in the series. No doubt, if you like Atelier games, you would probably also like this one, as most people do. I can't complain too loudly about the lack of plot for the first 4 years because my favorite game in the series basically has no plot. Plus, at least Totori's plot is very exciting when it finally arrives. I like the time limits in Meruru and Rorona, and I think they work extremely well in those games, but the one in this game just makes no sense for me. It's just too long. New Game Plus on Rorona was legitimately fun, but on Totori, it was still as much of a pain as it was the first time around. In the end, this game just wasn't for me. I hate the way it's formatted. What's most infuriating is that this is entirely my fault. I could have just stopped playing after the first ending and then just watch the other endings on YouTube like any sane person should. But I didn't, and it's my mistake. So is it an awful game? Well, if it was, I wouldn't have gone on to play the rest of the series, obviously. There's good stuff. The previous points are the only ones I actually consider to be really bad, but this game has a lot more to offer. So is it actually worth playing? Well, yeah, absolutely, because if you have Totori save data in your Nintendo Switch, when you start playing Atelier Meruru and you recruit Totori, she comes with an overpowered staff that will plow through any early game monsters. 10 out of 10 just to make Meruru even better. You made it to the end of the video. That's really embarrassing. Please don't ever tell me about it. Do leave a like if you like, as it will inflate my ego. And I'll see you around.